Okay, I think, yes, we are on the YouTube now. Hello, everyone. Hello, Australia. Hello, Hong Kong. Hello, England. Well, welcome to our Worldscope Asia Pacific special. I'm your host, Rochang. We usually run our Worldscope on the second Friday of every month, and our regular crew, our regular panelists will be Lianne and Louisa and Anna and Maria from Latin America. But I say we should focus on Asia Pacific. Let me start with the friend I know, like Julija, because let me introduce you, Julija. Julija, I met Julija how long ago? Maybe like 2016 or 2000. I can't remember. Anyway,
but during the conference.
Earlier,
2000.
Yeah, earlier. 12,
14, 12 maybe.
Yeah. And in the conference, and once we met each other, so fun because she's lovely lady, and just like it helped me through the conference, and I really like it. And also,
good hospitality in Australia.
Definitely. And then very soon I learned Julija and my financial economy teacher Olga are very good friends and also focus on mundane astrology. So when I think about it, I need someone talk about Asia Pacific, especially Pacific region, Australia. First one, I would think you, and next time I will try invite Olga to join us too.
Yes, definitely.
That'll be fun.
Yes.
And also I will introduce you to Benson. Well, Benson used to teach in the Hong Kong University, and now he holds some very famous YouTube channel talking about the economic and political things related to Hong Kong and China. Benson itself also an astrologer, so that would be so much fun. And then for people who regular for our channel, you're definitely familiar with Lianne. Lianne is our today's special guest too, who going to help us to join the conversation. So welcome everyone. And then I think if you are watching us from the YouTube, the conversation is open. So I will keep an eye. I will monitor that conversation box like that. Now I will say hi. So if you are there, you can type your question, you can join the discussion with us, okay? And if you like this, please subscribe and like and share like I'm going to do when Julija start to talking, because I will put this on the Facebook and let everyone watching us. Okay, let's begin. I mean, it is very important because we are approaching the Libra increase, especially when Julija is here. I'm not going to call it autumn equinox. That's really not right, because for North Hemisphere it's autumn, but for the South Hemisphere it's springtime.
It's always spring at this time of year, yeah.
Yes, so it is quite funny. So also some astrologers say, well, this would be the, they will make a chart like Libra in Greece as a Aries in Greece for South Hemisphere. I see some astrologers doing projects in this. What's your view about that?
Well, it's really important when we're working with different hemispheres. As we know, everything has been concentrated and developed in the Northern Hemisphere. We just have to be really aware of the polarities. I don't change the signs. It's just being very aware that our signs have a different season. And of course, that's quite difficult. So the polarities become much more important. Like really I have got the Australian ingress chart here for Libra. And I mean, you could use that as the beginning of the year, but it doesn't really make sense because it's a world thing. So when we start changing, especially with mundane astrology, we're looking at the world as well, or a collective, when we look at the cardinal ingresses, we're looking at a collective sort of, mass, consciousness. So I don't change the signs, but very aware. Like I'm a Pisces. Born in summer, not the end of winter, born at the end of summer. And that's more important. So the season that you're born into is much more sort of in the background. So, we have to know that there's two different types. And I don't see myself as Virgo. I do have Virgo planets, though, which complicates it. But I don't see all of my Pisces planets becoming Virgo. No.
Thank you for clarifying this, because we have so many astrologers. Everyone have a different view, and I really like this because we are aware that when we reading the mundane astrology, because it's a whole world thing. So that is a very good view to start with. So let's start with Julija. I think I'm already make you a co-host, so you can share your slides. What are we going to talk about today?
Let me just get my pointer. You can see that, yes?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. All right. So the biggest thing that's happening in Australia, especially in this next quarter, the Libra Ingress is this weekend. But of course, this next quarter of the Cardinal Ingress, the most important thing actually in the last few months in Australia has been this referendum that we are all about to vote for on October the 14th. And I just wanted to start with this so people understand what we're voting for, right? So it's to be held on October the 14th, which is just like the voting ends just, about 8 hours or 12 hours before the eclipse the next morning, which is at 21 Libra. So the referendum to be held on October the 14th would enshrine in Australia's constitution an Indigenous voice to Parliament. The voice would be a group of Indigenous representatives who would advise the government and legislators on policies that affect the lives of the nation's most disadvantaged ethnic minority. So, of course, all of us know the history of Australia, and, a lot of us kind of are very much on the Indigenous voice side, in the sense that they need more representation. They have been repressed and persecuted, and that's so true about many Indigenous cultures around the world. So, but as we sort of look, I think to begin the story for any nation and looking at the year ahead, we have to start with the Aries Ingress, right? So yes. I just want us to sort of go back to looking at that from a Canberra point of view. Canberra is our capital, of course. And so the Aries Ingress had Chiron and Jupiter right on the ascendant. You probably talked about this, this chart in many ways over the year or whatever. So, as we can see, Jupiter is a judgment in a sense. Everyone has to make a judgment. And so the whole referendum aspect is that it's actually declining as, in the last few months. The more that we've found out about it, or not enough about it, this is what a lot of people are saying, is that it's not clear enough. So, it's not clear enough what this actually means. And I think that Jupiter-Chiron conjunction there is very sort of telling, in the sense that we need to heal this past, sort of, the past and the identity of Australia, and incorporate more of our Indigenous voice. So it's very apparent, I think, with Jupiter rising there. We do know the other big things are, of course, Mars square Neptune, and Venus is conjunct the North Node. And, it's been such a big year of, inflation and, rising prices. And that's a lot of people have been sort of, even that's become more important, let's say. The price of living here is extraordinarily high. So anyway, that's just a bit of background to what's going on here.
Yes.
And of course, yes, sorry, do you want to add anything there?
Oh, anyone? And I will start with that Chiron, just Chiron, because I usually see Chiron as a minority group, and this important event for the Australia, I think, is such important for the Aborigine in Australia, and they need to stand out on the ascendant. We are part of this land, and we deserve the voice out. This is just a big observation. I think maybe Lianne or Benson will have some comment. Benson?
Yes. Because 12th house is a really major focus for the whole thing, especially for those people who are being marginalized, who are actually the disadvantaged people being neglected by the society, by the government. So I believe that Aries in red chart actually reflect that those people, their voice, their concern are being addressed at that moment, especially this year. And my second observation, especially we talk about the Jupiter in the first house, actually it can bring the whole thing into reality that the government make laws, because we talk about Jupiter, it relates to legislation and law.
Yep.
And so that the whole thing can be an impact as a result.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lianne?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I'll just echo that, to be honest. It's incredibly 12th house. And I think there may be some confusion or perhaps things that people aren't aware of or going on behind the scenes. But, you know, that moon Neptune, it is all about the underdog, isn't it? You know, the underprivileged, you know, as just said. And that Sun Mercury, it's all about the voice, without a doubt. But you know that Venus conjunct the North Node, you know, I know it's all about the economy, but it's about the value system, and it's about giving the underdogs equal value in society, isn't it? And that's what those referendums pushing towards. So I say that Venus on the North Node is a positive. It's a step forward rather than a regression, because I always think the South Node's like a regression, a step backwards, isn't it?
Especially the relationship is changed progressive way. That in the past is unequal, but right now it's becoming equal, or even they have a say in the establishment.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lovely sextile to Saturn there in Pisces. And again, that's very much about the sort of less privileged people in society, and it's given them more of a standpoint and you know, and a collective, you know, a sense of collective position, you know, because that's what it is. It's trying to make their position equal. So yeah, I think
balance it out. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive in this, I think.
Yeah. Well, let's move on.
Sure, definitely.
So this is just the ACG map, the astrocartography map, showing the lines through Canberra. Canberra is in between Melbourne and Sydney there. You know, just to, you know, pointing out like a few things that happened in this year, just, you know, touching on things. The writer's strike's got Pluto coming through here. The Mars is near the Maui fires. The Mars is also on the midheaven where they went searching for the gold of the Titanic. That's what I say.
Dear.
Or, you know, the disaster that happened there, you know, again, Mars Neptune theme, you know, coming into that story. And then also just the leak of the what do you call it?
Radiation.
Anyway, there's a lot more there, but you know, the Aries ingress showed a lot of planets and the sun going right through pretty much the middle of Australia. So, you know, it's connected to, of course, there's a lot more there, and I'm sure you've talked about it a lot before. So this is the ingress chart now for Canberra, okay? And we've got now a Chiron Mars opposition in the 2nd and 8th house. I use porphyry, of course, it might be a little bit different, but you know, again, still, so you know, there's a lot to reevaluate, of course, you know, the 2nd house, but also you know, Mars in Libra, again, it's not in its best place. It's too, let's say, not you know, powerful enough perhaps. And you know, there's a lot of mistrust with this referendum, and even from the Indigenous culture, they do not trust the government. You know, so it's not like, oh, this is a great idea. You know, we love this idea. There is just so much mistrust about it. So, you know, we've got that Chiron theme now very much about, you know, sort of, you know, presenting itself very strongly there. You know, Mercury's close to the descendant, and the ascendant, of course, ruled by Jupiter again. You know, who are we going to, you know, how are we going to vote, and the legislation that will come through that. Jupiter is squaring, it's in a, what do you call it, sesqui-square to the sun. So it's not, let's say, it's in a harsh aspect, okay? If that's a good thing or a bad thing, hard to tell. What's your kind of thinking on, you know, it's a midpoint structure for the ascendant, actually. The ascendant is a Jupiter-Mars midpoint. So I think that's quite interesting. You know, of course, Venus is important as well. You know, the sixth house, you know, bringing in like the everybody, let's say, not just the people in power. And she's trying to Chiron there as well. So, you know, what can we make of that? Like you've looked at this ingress chart before for other countries. What was the standouts that you all came up with for, you know, the ingress chart?
Well, yeah, Lianne.
Okay. A lot of what you've just said there, Julija, that Sesky quadrat between the Sun and Jupiter, it's very action orientated.
Right.
You know, this is about pushing forward with legislation, perhaps new laws, that type of thing. But I think what you said about the mistrust in government is very, very relevant. And I keep looking at that in conjunct between the Sun and that Saturn in Pisces. And that just describes the lack of trust. And this is global. This is a collective lack of trust in government.
Yes, that's right.
Absolutely. And people are so uncomfortable with everything that they're being told. Everything.
We don't believe anything, do we?
No,
we just can't.
It's so Saturn and Pisces. And that's when we start getting all these conspiracy theories and false gurus. And, you know, we just have to look at the Russell Brand situation. He's almost got like a cult following because people will not trust in the establishment anymore. So it makes you wonder if people will actually vote or not, or whether they just think, oh, is there any point voting? There's that as well. So I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yes. And again, it's very, very, you know, half and half. I think, you know, as we look at the eclipse chart coming up and stuff, you know, maybe we need Mars to feel more sort of impacted. You know, both the midheaven, the ascendant ruled by Jupiter, which is in that aspect, and the moon in Capricorn. How have you guys sort of looked at that, you know, for the next 3 months? That's, you know, the people aren't very happy with the moon in Capricorn.
No. With the moon in Capricorn, I would say people are not really happy. And I think we probably have to bite our tongue and working much harder to prepare. I mean, for North Hemisphere, we have to prepare for this winter because we don't know the energy price going up again or not, because it's hanging there and they already say there is a potential going to be. So and also for South Hemisphere, I thought, especially this moment, we have a heat wave in Australia is coming up, and I need to get ready about that. But I agree with you for one point that Mars is really a key in the 8th house. That Mars, especially, is approaching South, not 100% conjunct, but it will move towards there around that time, and that is a crucial key. People are maybe going to, I will say yes, angry. People are upset. And they will speak out. They will get, because we can see the significant loss from our environment or from our assets or by property or you know, anything we own, or something we feel like unequal with Mars in Libra. And notice that Mars is also the 60 quadrant with Saturn. That is the 12th house ruler and the 11th house ruler. And the 12th house ruler is a forgotten people without a name.
Yeah,
people have the right and then being taken away, and that Saturn is there together. They fighting so hard. They have I think for this referendum in Australia, probably showing that have to push a little bit harder, you know, to get things done. And we will feel frustrated. People will feel frustrated.
It feels like it needs more momentum. A lot of people are saying, you know, there needs to be more time. We're kind of not prepared enough. You know, it's almost like, again, the mistrust is a big thing about what this actually means, and even many Indigenous saying that they are very scared that it will take away more rights than give them more. So it's really, really interesting, sort of, it's quite confusing, actually. So
it's funny you say that about them being scared of their rights being taken away, because it's very like Moon and Capricorn, that Moon Saturn dynamic of fear. We're all frightened because we're all facing massive economical challenges. We feel stuck, we feel frustrated, we feel blocked. So when you're sort of on top of that, fighting for equal rights within society, it's just all additional fear, pressure. People feel pressure, don't they?
Yeah. And I think Venus, again, the ruler of the sun, in Leo, it's almost like they're just thinking about themselves because of all their worries. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just more important how I survive at this point. It's it's quite selfish, let's say. And look, just generally, Australia's history of referendums, there's only been a few out of 9 or 10 over, the last century that have actually gone through, or is it half and half? But again, it's half and half. So it's not the last one we had was in 1999 for, what do you call it? Becoming independent from the empire, right? And that was a no vote as well, which is also very surprising. So again, we are a Capricorn nation, as we'll see the Australia charts in a minute. So the change there, we're not so easily influenced, let's say. Okay. And then this is, of course, the ACG map for the for the Libra ingress. And I'd be happier if I saw something going through Canberra. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even on the geodetic map, I'm not sure if you use it. I've got one as an example, but
I do.
Okay, it's like you want something more than we can see Saturn going right through the middle.
Yes.
Saturn in Pisces. Yes. Just Saturn in Pisces by itself, yes, it's relating to the underdog and equality for everybody universally. But as we'll see later, Saturn is actually squaring the Australia chart. So we do like the dynamism of squares, but do they bring what we want, right? So this is the eclipse for hang on, this is for Melbourne, but it's very similar. I'm sorry, I don't.
That's okay.
It's only a few degrees forward, actually. So it's just like 7 degrees as opposed to 9. It's very, very similar. So I'm sorry, I didn't realise that I put Melbourne in there. But again, we've got this 8th house, 2nd house focus, big time for the eclipse. I mean, would you plan a referendum on an eclipse? No, it's just as soon as we found out about it, we thought, well, no, because things can go either way, but they're a lot more wonky. They're not as clear, right? I think the whole aspect of what's happened in the last year since this whole idea came about, and then the referendum date was announced. It has declined, as I was saying, in popularity because of, not enough, again, people not trusting the whole story and what it means. Jupiter's up there, a lot of the 8th house. Do you see the 8th house as a change place, or, it is a transformative place? I think it's going to do a lot to change the whole concept, but I don't think we're ready yet. Somehow. Interestingly, though, Venus is in of course, it's a Libra eclipse. Venus is in Virgo. Now, again, it's like Mars, we said, in Libra is not so effective. How, is Venus in Virgo? Yes, wants to fix things and make things better for everybody. But can she do it? Can she provide?
Mutual reception with Mercury there, though.
Yes, with Mercury, yes.
So that might help things along.
Yeah. And we've got the Chiron Mercury now this time as well. And of course, Mars has moved to Scorpio by the referendum and by the eclipse. So again, he's got more oomph. So, as I've looked at everything and put it all together, I'm really quite indecisive. I think it's going to be so close, and I really hope it does go through in my own sort of thinking, let's move on and let's get something started. And a lot of, let's say, people are, but it has to be a majority vote in all the, you know, like of the states, not just by population, right? And most of the population is Victoria, you know, New South Wales and Queensland is all our people. Most of, you know, or 2/3 of Australia is on this side. And most of them are all on the no side. So it's super, you know, like disturbing in that sense. It's interesting also, our last referendum, it's supposed to say 1999, Venus was also in Virgo. And of course the referendum didn't go through, and in 1999 we got the 8-year relationship. So she's actually in the same, she's not at the same degree of Virgo, she's a little bit earlier, but pretty much the same phase, like, you know, maximum elongation from the sun, or she would be in about 10 days from here. So anyway, very close to, you know, fully stretched, let's say, right? So it's stretching all of us. It's stretching all of us to think the right way, but we've actually been, you know, it's like messing with our minds. You know, am I doing the right thing if I vote yes? And yeah, am I doing the right thing is the big question.
Definitely.
Right? Here with Venus, you know, very close to the ascendant. Anyway, and look, Eris on the North Node, I'm not sure if you use Eris, but she's very much about that that archetype that you know, puts in you know, the chaos into the whole you know, this whole story. That's why it's not so clear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I keep looking at that trine between Mars and Saturn, that water trine. I think people are going to act from a very emotional place, without a doubt. When people are indecisive, when the logic doesn't sort of work, or they're flip-flopping, they'll just come from an emotional place. And I think as well, that Neptune's not really aspected, is it? It's got a biquintile, and that's about it. So again, so much confusion and indecision. So I wonder if
it's not clear, is it? And again, the eclipse in Libra is just so telling of how undecisive it is.
Exactly. So I wonder if there might not be a definitive result.
Well, it will just be the majority of states. You know, if 4 states vote yes, I think this, you know, and the other 3 vote, or the other 5 or whatever vote no, then that's it.
I feel like I don't usually use the Aries. But when you choose Aries in this chart and the tight conjunct with North Node, I mean, it's not just Australia. Again, say people are not happy, and it's a little bit disturbing, you know, a little bit like this more conflict or like no, it's not harmony side. And I'm always fascinating about Julija's research on Venus cycle, and again, this proved that the Venus cycle are so important. Thank you for sharing this with us, Julija. Please continue.
Yeah, well, if you're looking at 8 years, you know, 99, we knew with Venus retrograde that it also happened in 2015 and 2007 and 99.
Yeah.
So she's coming out of a, you know, so that's just sort of telling about, you know, it didn't happen last time. So, you know, is this the same sort of story? I did look at Saros cycles for Australia like a week ago, and then I haven't put it in. It's too much information, but it's not also logged into our Saros series. It's in between. The next one is, I think it's 2020 or 32 or something like that. So we're not in our own Saros, you know, from either 1788 or 1901. And I just want to put this here because this is now the geodetic chart, and you probably know this, guys, but Beijing. Because you're going to, you know, it has 22 Libra ascendant and 26 Cancer MC on the geodetic map. So I'll be very interested to, you know, I think what's happening in China maybe is more significant at this point. Do you know what I mean, of what changes might be ahead in this next 3 months? So I'm kind of you know, like I was doing some research about Australian presidents and the most, prime ministers, and the ones that have got the Sagittarius, because this area is, of course, Sagittarius rising with Leo on the midheaven. They need to have Sagittarius and Leo to actually really fit into here. And their most popular prime minister had lots of Sagittarius planets. So anyway, very interesting. I love geodetic maths.
I like geodetic too. And well, this is just sheer geodetic research. Don't anyone from China, don't get upset with me, all right? I want to say something that upset a lot of people. That most of China is the Cancer rising, and the most part of area in China is the Cancer on MC and Libra on the ascendant in the geodetic. If you switch to Taiwan, that would be interesting. East part of Taiwan, especially east part of Taiwan, a little bit part are the Leo rising. That's what shows that sometimes we have a very different view and very funny. But anyway, I don't want to go that far. It's just like when I studied the geodetic, it's just like that is very interesting. The sign and the MC sign and the rising sign on the geodetic can really describe different themes. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I just thought I'd put that in. But also, of course, 26 Cancer, what's opposite that? You know, so we've got the opposition of, Pluto's right on the IC there. Anyway, we'll do more of that another time.
Definitely.
So these are the two charts now. I know I'm sort of taking more time, but these are the two charts that we use for Australia. And the first one here is called the Landing Day, or some call it the Invasion Day of 1788. And it was rectified by Ed Tamplin, a great mundane Australian astrologer.
I miss him.
And I learned mundane astrology from him. So anyway, so this is his rectified chart. And as we look at the eclipse here, it's right on. So if we were to use, we can't have an Indigenous Australian chart, right? So, if this is one that, we could probably use one when Captain Cook first landed in 1777. Yes. But, this is also, anyway, this is the one that we've sort of worked out to use more often. Now, it's really just interesting again, Neptune, the eclipse is right on Neptune here. I have a thought that, with with Pluto moving over this ascendant in coming years is when we're going to find the change. It's almost like it's too early. Do you know what I mean? Like when Neptune, it's still, let's say, 5-6 years away for it to be on this ascendant or sun, is something that I'm looking at to see more definitive about when, real change will happen for our Indigenous people. Anyway, there's more there, but let's just keep, Mars on the MC right there as well. So there aren't good signatures, but again, there's this sort of sense that we've got Saturn on Venus as well. Is this a breakthrough or is this a stalemate? Yes, right. Yeah.
That'll station around the 4th of November there at 0. Yeah.
So it's a powerful, sort of signature, but there is a Saturn Venus signature anyway, in Aquarius. So is that also, sort of telling us that is, it's not going to, move through, let's say. If Uranus, it was a Uranus or something, maybe so. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, and Uranus is, of course, Pluto's opposite that Uranus there. So there's a force behind it all, but again, I'm not convinced that it's enough somehow. Anyway, I'll move on. And then this is the other chart we use for, what do you call it, in Australia's inauguration in 1901, and it's a 29 Aries rising chart. And of course, the last eclipse was on that degree back, solar eclipse. So again, we're in the throes of re-identifying ourselves and who we are. I'd probably want this eclipse to be in a more sort of significant area, really, to see that change. Do you know what I mean? It's like if it was up here. I mean, it is up there in this chart, but it's here. What do you think?
The notice that, eclipse on the 6th house, well, it still could relate it to certain, the underdog things in the sixth house is inequality. And more notice about that from the both chart, from the landing chart and the inauguration chart, the Mars is on the angle, both chart. Mars is nearly
Yes.
angles, and Pluto is also nearly angle. So, well, it's kind of a serious things coming up, I have to say. Maybe not only with this referendum,
there's a lot of disagreement.
yeah.
There's a lot
definitely.
of disagreement. And what else? I haven't put Black Moon or Lilith here, but this is probably a good symbol. 20. She's at 28 degrees of Leo conjunct Juno at the eclipse. I mean, the other thing that I like is Jupiter in the fourth house here. It's kind of like reclaiming something. Do you know what I mean? For the people here. But again, we know, Jupiter's somewhat afflicted during that eclipse as well, or the ingress it was. So it is trining that moon. So again, positives, negatives all around. So let me just quickly finish up. So this is how Australia's kind of looking at this point. Okay, so
oh my God.
Tasmania is the only state that looks like it's going to say yes. We know that Western Australia is very much a no. Sydney and Victoria and New South Wales could very well be very, very, could be a yes. It's hard to know, but again, we need to have more than one state saying yes. Even though, the population will be maybe more to a yes vote, we actually need more states. And these states are less populated, but they're much more, they're very scared about losing their land and, giving back land, even though that's not what it's about. Do you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. So the Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus, we want the changes, but people aren't, they're very scared of giving up what they have. But that's what they think. Right? And this is the populations, of course, throughout the country. But again, that's not how it's going, it's about the states voting, not the people in that sense, right? So, and for that reason, I've put these two charts. So we had one of the big things that happened in Australia back in 1988 was Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister, then said sorry, right?
Yes.
And I did the chart for that because we had a time for that sorry vote. I mean, it was a gesture. But much well. But look at where Venus and the nodes are like now for this referendum that's coming. We've got Uranus on the moon of that. So it is rising up all this again. And look where Venus is, back to the a story that continues, let's say, through that. And I'll finish up with these two. This is the chart for the beginning of the referendum in Canberra, or sort of the time that it starts, and then the time that it finishes in Perth. And of course, these are very debatable, but again, the whole of the population, most of it, besides some postal votes, have voted by then. Do you know what I mean? And I said it for Perth, because it would be 9 p.m. in Canberra or whatever. But anyway, it just gives you an idea of what we're, so we end up with Chiron again on is that a winner?
Eris rising as well.
Sorry?
There's Eris rising as well with Chiron. So I wonder if there's going to be an upset.
I agree with both of you.
It's not like an election, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it as sort of not decisive, but it's not an election. It's a referendum. So anyway, I'm really quite undecided. Having looked through all of that, I just think it's too early. I really hope to see that it does come through. But I think the astrology is showing us that it's a little bit mixed up and it's reflecting how Australians are thinking at the moment.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Julija. Yes.
My pleasure.
Thank you for bringing this juicy part of astrology. And, everything you say, we just really blow my mind off. I heard you talking about the Venus. I heard you talk about something else, but I never heard about you talking about mundane astrology. I'm big fan now.
Olga and I have been doing. Look, the CIA have been doing it for a long
know.
time. We started in 2009, but we have kind of. It's like other people are doing it now, and we're kind of doing other things. You can't do everything anyway.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Please coming back. Please coming back for next the English and the equinox to share your insight with us. This is amazing. Talk about the CIA. I'm part of agent. I'm very proud. And Julija invited me. I was like, really? What? You are going to invite me? I was so excited. But could you tell us a little bit about the CIA organization?
Okay, well, the Cosmic Intelligence Agency started as an idea in Melbourne that I sort of put forward to the astrologers that I was connected to at the time. And it was from a study group, that we were all mad astrologers, studying everything. And we had a mundane astrology group anyway, and a horary group and, everything group. Anyway, but from that core, we kind of thought we need, I told the name to some of these people and they said, oh, that's a great idea, Julija. We didn't really know what it meant, but what it did mean and what it did become was that astrology, back when I was, early studying at the end of the 90s, astrology was still very much like people didn't talk about it, what it was. And I was kind of dying inside going, it's not how it should be. This stuff is amazing, like everybody that, we get so into it. And so the CIA became like a badge to wear, the logo. We're proud astrologers. We do astrology. We're bloody astrologers, so and so it just became this kind of, fun way to put astrology out there, being agents, and we made some movies and, had a lot of fun. And, again, I saw, and we've got a 1.2 million Facebook page that sort of grew. And, although social media is not what it used to be, that's for sure. We had our heyday in a way. And there's just so much more. And the whole focus was to put astrology out there. Do you know what I mean? To be loud and proud astrologers as we still are. And, it's great to see where it's gone. And, social media helped us so much, although that's, it's so changing. So, to see astrology sort of getting its foot back, in so many different ways, good and bad. Let's focus on the good. And it's all about relaying, as you all do, the way to use it, be comfortable, be sure, learn well, and use it in the world as much as you can.
So if you are interested in Julija's talk and her group, please come to visit CIA Cosmic Intelligence Agent. So please join Julija, and I would definitely invite you back. Please come back. Amazing. I love it.
Rod. And now, I'm glad that you're taking over this kind of stuff now, so it's good.
I think especially you mentioned about Ed Tumbling. He's my mentor too. I did not study with, I don't have that honor to privilege to learn from him. But I did met him in a conference and he inspired me so much. He really dedicated his life into mundane astrology, and that inspired me. And the way he talked to me, I was just like, oh my God. Well, that's a shift our focus a little bit more to China now. So here we are. Welcome, Benson. Benson is on you now. So Benson, we are going to talk about China, Hong Kong.
Yeah. Before starting my presentation, thank you so much for your invitation, especially this is my first time sharing or even presenting my observations about China, Hong Kong, Hong's astrological observations that I do hope my analysis you find useful to understand what's going on in the future. Especially people may think whether there will be a war between China and Taiwan next year. And a number of people query about whether China can be normalized, but this is not possible based on my observation. So before my presentation, I would like to share my PowerPoint. So maybe Rami, would you please?
Yeah, I already make you co-host, so you can share your PowerPoint, please.
Go. Here we go. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You can see the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Maybe before going through my analysis in astrological aspects, maybe I should share with you some key point in relation to
Perfect.
China and Hong Kong. I don't know whether I have sufficient time to also touch on Taiwan, but at least for China and Hong Kong, we put two places in one. This is actually because after 2020, China actually, I would say, actually undermade the one country, two system. Hong Kong people were in Hong Kong and higher level autonomy. That actually China actually is dominating Hong Kong in different ways. So in that aspect, I will put China and Hong Kong together for analysis. But of course, in astrological analysis, I will put two places separately. But at least I help you to establish a basic understanding about their key features of the development, like political control, economic downturn, or even international isolation. Some people may know about actually China is backing the Russia in Russia-Ukraine war. And also recently you can see the leaders of North Korea and also the Putin, they met together in Asia talking about how North Korea support Russia in the Russia-Ukraine war. So usually people will describe China, North Korea, and Russia as the three evil alliance members. So for the chart, I would like to summarize the key developments of China in light of the connection of the observation based on the Libra Ingrid chart. Very eye-catching part, of course, is the first house. So maybe the first house have told you everything about what's going on in China, in political system, as well as the citizen or people in China. Some people may know that recently there is a kind of political instability in China in the way that a number of general or ministers are being stopped by the Xi Jinping, because Xi Jinping actually was afraid of which those officers, those people actually support them to be promoted are not trustworthy. In other words, Xi decided to remove them, and leading to a kind of chaos in top politics or top leadership politics. So that refers to the very first house. So if you turn to the front page of the leading newspaper in the West, you can see about the news about China. Talk about Xi Jinping actually remove some of the officer in the ground of corruption, but of course corruption is only an excuse because the officer actually is the one that Xi Jinping believes they are capable to do things. But in fact, why Xi Jinping after half year, after several months, those officers were removed. So we do believe that China actually Hong's political situation, especially in the top level, is in the very unstable positions in some way. But of course, another concern is people may think about the China economy. There's two things, of course, some people cannot negate. The very first thing is recently we talked about some leading statistical figures about China economic performance, which is really not satisfactory, perhaps quite poor. Like we talk about purchasing management index, or even in Chinese government recently, they carry out or even put forward a policy that try to reward the construction site as a farmland. Some people will find that is this possible? Originally, this is a highway. Originally, this is a construction site. Okay, sorry, my iWatch is listening to me, so I have to put it away. Okay.
I hope it's not she listening to you.
I'm afraid. Okay, I cannot discuss too much in details anyway. So you can see the pictures that actually in China right now, some people try to convert the highway or even the construction site into a farmland, but people believe this is impossible. In some way, some people they think that this in order to entertain our great leader, so we follow our great leaders' instruction to do things. That what in house number 2, you can see it says me I forget.
Neptune.
Neptune is actually in place in this area. And also you can see that Neptune actually you can see it is actually because of that kind of radical idea arising from Uranus, that radical ideas put forward by the party in places, and also people doing that kinds of thing because of fear. So you can see there is a triangle, that three leading planets, Uranus, Uranus, or also Pluto, and also I forget, and also sorry, this one.
Yeah, you're talking about Uranus, yeah.
Uranus. I'm too nervous. Sorry about that. Okay.
Relax.
Yeah.
We are here.
Sure.
We are here to support you.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's first time using English as a media instruction to make presentations. Sometimes the keywords may be forgotten.
I see.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry about that. You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Yeah. So over the first house is not a very good thing as well. Especially you can see the national leaders of China look like a leader in Soviet Union at the time that resuming a kind of indoctrinations and also political education, but in Xi Jinping era it's put forward intensively that actually constitute a kind of hurt, or even a kind of people feel really unhappy about what Xi Jinping doing to keep control everything in education aspect. And in China, actually, in the past, there are some international schools that actually people, if you are rich enough, you can pay school fee expensively to receive a Western education without any interference of the party education. But right now, this is not possible because the Chinese government decided to call off or also remove those so-called Western school, and those school sponsoring body have to choose to run their school according to the regulation or even the instruction of the Chinese authorities. For the fourth house, another aspect for the fourth house, we also focus on the land, or also in some way the country. So in China recently, we talk about the real estate market is collapsing. So that collapsing is related to Uranus. Actually, that plays in the fourth house that actually in line with the protos that. Actually, people would believe in China, the real estate market associated with the root of the Chinese economy is getting unstable. Of course, in diplomatic aspect, I take a look at the house number 7. That actually see number 7, there is a Venus. For the Venus, of course, people will regard that in case the house number 7, we talk about partnership. In some way, we talk about competitors. In China right now, no one will question that India has become a target, has become a major focus in the West, because the major leading industrial powers want to replace India's. Want to replace China as India as a leading wealth factory, and other power is nearby is Vietnam. That recently U.S. actually is willing to allocate monies to Vietnam to develop the high technology industry as well. In other words, in the eyes of China, actually their competitors is actually getting in some advantages in some advantages in this aspect. That also in the eyes of China, of course, actually that India is Vietnam actually for a kind of a competitive relationship in this way. In house number 8, of course, the leader. We talk about the Mercury. One aspect is diplomacy. But that diplomacy right now, people know that Xi Jinping decided not to attend G20 conference in November. And Xi Jinping also chose not to visit abroad. Especially people remember what happened in South Africa. that Xi Jinping have a really embarrassing experience. That suddenly their interpreter was not allowed to follow him, and Xi Jinping felt very lonely to walk along, and we feel really angry as a result. So, based on this chart, overall speaking, if I try to combine with that PRC chart with the Libra Ingrid chart, actually they repeat also record what we have observed from the one single Libra Ingrid chart that I try to summarize in very seven aspects. That some actually theme is repeated, like the house number 2 economic issue, house number 3 we talk about radicalize everything within the countries. Number 7, especially I just highlight number 7, we talk about competitors. People in the eyes of PRC or transit authority, they feel very flattering by the competitor. House number 8, we talk about power struggle. We talk about the those things related to in the past we may be buddies that we promote. I promote you because you are my buddy, but maybe today has become the enemy that that people has been corrupted, has to be got rid of as a result. So maybe I stop here. Maybe any questions from
yeah, we can make some comment. This chart is so amazing. Thank you, Benson. Make an effort about put all things together. And as you say, I 100% agree with you. So far, this chart, and especially when we put on the PRC chart, it describes the current situation about, especially like estate agents, about their house market. Well, for last 20 years, if you notice that for last, as Benson say, for last 20 years, house market was the major economic push forward force in China, and then also with their the factory in southeast part of China. But now after pandemic, and also I think since 2016, if I remember that, they started noticing the house price raising incredibly, and they trying to cool it down. They tried so many ways. It was until 2021, I think. They have a heavy-handed to limit it. The people can buy the house or some regulation about the mortgage. So this really cooled down the price. But together with pandemic, it make those fast developing estate agents, they really couldn't cope with this because they need the new money coming to support their new project. So what's happening now is a little bit like in 2005 in the United States, that credit crunch things, how the house bubble is coming down, and then it has huge impact in the banking industry. All the bank is really shorthand, really short of money now. So although a couple of days ago, China just published their economic figure, they are happy about it. It's better than they expected. Of course, always. But all the economists from all around the world is like, we are not sure about it. So you can see that, especially if you see the Libra in Greece chart, that Jupiter is on the 4th house. They really trying to secretly to ease those regulations, to encourage people to say, go back to buy more house. Just they don't want to contradict themselves, but they secretly easy down the regulation and say, go to buy more house now. We need it. What do you think, Lianne and Julija?
I just keep looking at that Mercury in Virgo trine Jupiter. Oh, sorry. Who's going first?
Continue.
I'll go.
Yeah, go.
Okay. That Mercury trine Jupiter on top of the PRC Saturn, they're trying to put a positive spin on it, aren't they? That's what Mercury Jupiter is, trying to put a positive spin on it without a doubt. But we've got that Mars conjunct Neptune and Mercury in the 8th house, so all is not as it seems, without a doubt. No, you're completely right. Yeah, you go now, Julija.
Well, to be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time looking at China's chart before, and I'm just seeing that 8th house, kind of story there. And, yeah, I mean, they could be telling us anything. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's good, everything's, I mean, it's hidden away from us, what really
Yes.
is in the background. And of course, that Libra sort of niceties too. It's all fine, it's all good here, again, it's there's a lot to deal with in looking at this. And, of course, that Pluto heading to the ascendant, we've probably seen that in action over the angles, and someone studied that before and I haven't. So something's, I mean, what would happen there to make it radically different from what it is now? That's what my thought is. Do you know what I mean? Or how they operate, or how the government operates anyway. What would it be that would really sort of shift our perspective or their trajectory on how they manage their nation? Anyway, it's just bringing up a lot of things for me to think about.
Thank you, Julija. But yes, the truth is we can see the Pluto is there, and we can expecting Pluto bring some radical shiftment, but we don't know how it's going to play. Like when we remember in 2019 when the Pluto on the Iceland's ascendant, they really changed their destiny to closing down all the bank, nationalize all the bank, and devalue the Iceland crown, and that is fascinating. But it didn't bring down whole government, but it changed the things radically, and so we can expecting some radical change in China, but we don't know what. But I noticed another two things, especially Benson mentioned about the 7th house with the Venus and the Mars and the Pluto. Usually, we notice for last couple of years, or since she became the president, their policy, their strategy of diplomat is, I'm not a giveaway. We are the best, and you shut up. Kind of this. With this Venus with this Venus there, and also the Venus is right on the midpoint of the country. That is interesting. We can see something there. So, Benson, can you just point about the war and peace?
Yeah. Right now, based on the Libra in-grade chart that try to be forecasting what's going on in the next 3 months until the end of December. Some people may ask, is it possible in China to have a kind of unrest that constitute a kind of uprising or revolution? But I guess it depends on how you interpret Protos and the conjunct with the moon. Of course, when Proto conjunct with the moon, of course, one possibility is related to revolution. But I believe the more possible scenario is more repression, more suppression, more threat, more fear to the people. But of course, as we do realize that Proto will handle right in this area several times next year, until 2024 that formally entered to the equalities. So people in China may experiencing a kind of fears, threats, repression, suppression, and push them to make decision whether you still tolerate that terrible situation or you choose to change their own destiny by doing something more. So that's the point. I do believe that for astrology as astrological interpretation, that we allow people that have their own choice, regardless they wanted to be a slave, that the master control me, I have no power to manage my own life, I'm only a powerless, or people suddenly wake up and say, oh, I have to fight for my future, fight for my next generation future, that I can be doing something. So how the power of Proto can be expressed and produce what kinds of impact, that is way to be seen. This is the first observation. And my very interesting second observation is because actually the Neptune actually will stay. It's actually stayed in house number 2 for such a long time. So we do believe China's whole economic collapse is not the one that suddenly the whole economy collapsing, but this is it would look like dissolving.
Yeah.
I mean, distorting means suddenly that key area of economy disappear, that area of economy getting worse. So this kind of look like a long-term illness. So in this regard, I do believe this is not a nice proto that it will be a kind of very dramatized collapsing. But for China economy, we will say it will declare gradually.
Yeah.
But my observation is, for those people who did not aware what happening, they will say, "Oh, China economy will recover on one day." But to me, if I take a look at chart, you just only prolong the pain, prolong the illness, prolong all the things that people keep their suffering longer if they choose not to awake themselves.
Well, people become numb to it if it goes on too long. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a numbing of, what can you do? It's giving in, or it's just, that's how it is. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of us feel a lot of that as well.
I like this idea for both Julia's observation and your word was exactly describe what's happening in China's especially younger generation. They have the word about spatial like Buddhism. No, well, or Buddhalize. When they say Buddhalize, it's Zen, calm, but I'm not going to do anything. The negative way of a very, very negative way of I'm not going to do anything, or lay flat. That's what they say. Pumping. I'm not going to react about the economy. So these, like Benson mentioned about the Neptune in the second house, has that feeling, and I agree with Benson's meaning about China's economic would be gradually, cooling down. This Neptune could get crazy too. We know Neptune is about bubble, but then never forget, very soon the Saturn is going to conjunct that Neptune in China's second house. That we should, keep an eye on that one because that would have a very serious impact in China's economy. Wow, thank you, Benson, and thank you for bringing us a list, with your knowledge and your analysis. It's amazing.
Thank you. And also, I want to also supplement further about the meaning of Neptune in house 2. Some people may know that some countries right now want to reestablish the economic ties with China. Of course, that house number 2 really, really meaningful to me. Of course, and one aspect is that people may prepare in two ways. On the one hand, they will say, I will invest more money, invest more in China. On the other hand, they actually withdraw their own industry or business to other place. So that kind of illusionary ways of managing relationship with economic relationship with China can also manifest in this Neptune.
You're right.
Okay.
So it's like, they trying to, you were talking about this business investor from outside of China is kind of trying to in one way say yes, in another way say deceive, trying to get away because it's difficult. And we see a lot of companies trying to withdraw from China because it's more and more difficult. So yes, this Neptune has that meaning too. Thank you, Benson, for your observation. Yeah, wow, I think it is. I really enjoyed this. I don't know about you, Julija and Benson. I hope I didn't. I hope you do enjoy this chat and conversation. And also, Lianne, thank you for joining us to be there to support us. It is so fun. Well, thanks, Benson, for your time and your analyze and share your observation. And thank you, Julija, about immense knowledge. I'm a big fan now, and I really hope to invite you and Benson to come back next season we can
Sure.
run another episode about this. That would be so fun. And if we have time, we have more astrologer to join us. That
Sure.
would be, more discussion. Thanks everyone for watching on the YouTube channel about the Worldscope Asia Pacific Spatial. This is the first time we are running this, and I really hope you enjoy it. And if you have any idea to share, please leave a comment. And then next time we can try to make a little bit different change. But thanks everyone, much appreciated, and you are amazing. You guys are stars. And I will try to put this on Instagram if I have time to cut it to the small piece and put it on Instagram. That will be fun. So thanks everyone, and see you on next week. Bye bye.
Thanks, Rod.
Bye-bye.
Thank